Real talk, real impact, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is FemmeIcon.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is Mahvish Akhtar with another episode of FemmeIcon. So today we're talking about respect and, values of respect and dealing with other people, whether it's people or a nation, a community, or individual. We will go over just some main ideas of what it means to be respectful to other people, what it means to be how to talk to other people, and what we considered Assalamu alaikum, hello, hustle grinder, nurture and counselor, and the rest of you, Utopian, the rest of you who are joining in. Let me know how you're hearing my voice. Is it okay? Is it, do I need to move my microphone here and there? Do let me know. And so we will be, Arusa, you've joined us. Thank you for being here. So we will be discussing it and try to discuss it. Okay, great. Because I've been trying different microphones, different types of, gadgets on me because my voice it just depends on the day I'm having, honestly. All right. So yeah. So what the reason of there are many reasons that I've picked this topic. Of course, it's important. It's important for us to talk about these issues, just in general. But the reason that I've picked it for now, for this time period, era, in our lives, in the world, is because for two reasons. If we look at our personal lives, we are so polarized on very simple issues. And tell me if you agree with me that small things like our children just playing around the house, and our friends or family members, and the reason I say friends as well is that people that are around us, somebody saying something as simple as, and also, before I finish this sentence, I have a lot of mouth sores. So my tongue is, different in my mouth, and my tongue is a little bit swollen and has chale. Yeah. So I'm going to be speaking a bit with a lisp. So if you don't understand anything and you want me to repeat something, please do let me know. Okay. So how many baches they're playing and just, or they do something they're not supposed to, or bazaar mein agar hum hain, or somebody stops them from getting into something, or stops them from, bumping into something, or if they do knock something over and they stop them, our reaction to that is like, oh, don't do that. Oh, can you be careful? Can you, please not do that. So I'm just giving an example. And there are many, many examples from our lives and from other people's lives. Our reaction is quite strong. What's my child? Why would you tell them to stop? And I'm not talking about everyday disciplining. I'm not talking about other people imposing their lifestyle on our kids and on our families. I wouldn't want that either. I'm very particular about how I'm raising my children, and I wouldn't want other people to impose that. So that's one example. Other example would be just online. The constant berate of why would you do that, and why would you say that, and why would you, oh, I'm offended at this comment, and I'm offended at that comment, and this person disagreed with me, so they must be wrong. I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say. It's okay for other people to have different opinions and still be a good person. It's okay for someone to say, oh, to my child, don't stand so close to that rack, it might fall over. Even though I may not think that, I may think it's okay for them to be standing that close to the rack because they're my children, right? And so I know that they will not touch the rack or lean against the rack. So I'm okay with it. But if somebody does say that to them, that's okay too. Because they do have to grow up and go in that world and live amongst those people. So that idea that that's seeping in, that everybody has to just tiptoe around us and everybody has to respect my understanding of the world and live in it according to me and according to what I find okay or I find not okay. Let's try and decipher, is that what respect is? Is that what kindness is? So I wanted to talk about that. And also, honestly, a lot of that has cleared up my own ideas of what is kindness? What is kindness in terms of the bigger world? Not just like my world outside of my home, but also nations. How nations deal with each other. How groups of people, how communities deal with each other. And it's important to learn because we get so confused about, a powerful nation will decide, and we will not get into politics. That's not what this is about today, at least. But sometimes it's important to understand in terms of we may have a certain politics in our family, in our hearts, and we may not understand how to define it for ourselves and then move forward with it because we understand it a certain way. And then the powerful countries, the countries who are making decisions for the rest of the world, which shouldn't be like that, but let's just say it's like that. And it is like that, not let's just say, it is like that. So for those countries, then they impose their idea of what is just and what is right and what is proper on the rest of the countries. So then, is that respect and proper? Then then those countries who are being imposed on, they can't speak up because then that is considered being disrespectful. Let me know if I lose you somewhere in the chain because I keep saying things and sometimes even I lose the chain. So let's start and let's see what kind of go in sequence, and we can see what we are, where we are, and what I'm trying to explain to you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the core value of respect and what they are, how they're understood by the world. Just generally, when we say, okay, well, what is respect and how it's seen by the world, and what will people tell you? People, but when I say people, what I mean is, okay, let's say you have I'm sorry, let me get my stuff straight, my papers straight. So I have it in front of you and I can make it just as I'm supposed to have it. This is in practice and this is in the value. Yeah. Because I don't want to. That's a different topic. Altogether a different topic. So we should have. So my kids ripped it off, and so now I don't have the proper. All right, there we are. So we're just going to go over the universal values that are considered and known to be the standard of universal values of respect. So if you ask somebody on the world stage, what is respect? If you want to say to somebody, all right, so I want to be a respectful person to the world, to my family, to my friends, to you, the individual I'm speaking to. How do I do that? How do I count myself to be a respectful person? what will they do? They will give you a list of values, universal values that you need to hold to be that respectful person. Now, what are those values? Number one, and I'm not going in any particular sequence, just there are certain number of those values. First is dignity. Taking care of your own dignity, being a dignified person, and taking care of or watching out for others' dignity. Now, we will, after I'm done with this list, we will look at a list of how these values, that the universal set of values, how they look in practice. So that's another list that we will talk about. So I'm not going to go one by one on, okay, how this dignity will look in practice and how the next one will look in practice, because we will have that list and we'll talk about that separately in a minute. So the first thing is that you have to have your own dignity, and then you have to, make sure that you are not taking away somebody else's dignity. So that makes you a person worthy of respect, and a person who will be considered somebody who is giving respect to others. Second one is protection of human rights. Now, what does that look like? We'll discuss that in a minute. And I think we have a pretty good idea. We don't need to describe what protection of human rights would look like or how we would implement it. We do need to describe it in practice, but we do know it on paper. We talk about it and hear about it all the time. Sensitivity to others' standard of humanity. So that actually should have been a sub, like a one big thing, protection of human rights, and then sensitivity to standards. And I would put this under dignity, actually, both protection of human rights and sensitivity to others' standard of humanity, but nobody's asking me. So yeah. Another one is sensitivity to others' standard of humanity. Now, I would like to explain this just a little bit. What does that mean to be sensitive to others' standard of humanity? That means that I am not going to apply my standard of humanity to your living situation. If your level of humanity demands that you live your life a certain way, I have to keep that up for you, to give you that value that you want, the value of respect, the value of life, and your dignity that you want. So the perfect example, because we just passed Eid al-Adha, it's a perfect example, because a lot of places in the world, we have this big hangama sakarajata. There's this whole drama of, oh my God, animal cruelty, and they kill animals and eating meat and this and that, and it's a huge thing that that we do. They think that we do, that we're torturing animals, and we all of that about Muslims. Not everybody. A lot of people understand that, yeah, this is a religious practice, and we do it in a certain way. So this is a part of that. This is a part of universal, value of respect. That if a group of people in their religious, and then we'll come to that in a minute too, but this also comes into sensitivity to others' standard of humanity, that if this is meant to be that it is a part of their religion, that they want to or have to or need to sacrifice animals, then, and if they're not hurting you to do that, and they're not doing anything that would come in under, harming you or harming your religion, then it should be okay. It should be allowed. They should not be shamed for it. They should not be hurt for it. And they should not be called out or called names for it. So you give them space to do that. That is your humanity. And for the people who are not in that situation, that is your humanity and your respect for individuality and your respect for those human beings, and your humanity, that you let them have that space. And if it is somehow against your religion or against your way of life, then you don't have to be around it when it's happening. You don't have to be there when it's happening. You just let them have their space, let them take care of it, and just be away from this. So that's one example. And, there are so many other, examples that I will give along the way of these kinds of things. So the next is difference of religion, culture, worldview, and empathy. So I would say to have empathy for all of these things. And then again, we would go back to that sensitivity to others' standard of humanity. Right? So our religion demands a lot of different things, and then another religion demands a lot of different things, and then another religion demands a lot of different things, and then a fifth one is not a religion. It's just something that they want to practice. It's a spiritual thing in their hearts. And then, those of us who are, accepted as organized religion want to look down on them because we don't live that way of life. And then we consider them as, that's not a real thing. That's not a real way of life. We don't consider you anything because we are more in number, right? We are organized in a better way, so you are not as important as we are. And then that's taking respect away from them. And that's us not giving them their humanity, not giving them their right to religion. And again, taking away respect from them. So that was the fourth one. And again, empathy. And I would go back to the example of humanity, that if you are taking that away from people, that it's just, you may be respectful to that animal, that person may not be respectful. You may be respectful to that piece of land, the other person may not be. But if you're not giving them that, that opportunity or not helping them with it, then you're taking away, then you are not being empathetic. And sometimes if you can't be, then just do as is written. And that's okay too. You can't be. It's not always innate. And I say that it's normal. हमें इस चीज़ की ज़रूरत नहीं है कि हम अपने दिल के अंदर से निकालें किसी के लिए मोहब्बत, किसी के लिए हमदर्दी. जब हम इस तरह की चीज़ों की बात करते हैं ना, रिस्पेक्ट की, ह्यूमिलिटी की, और दूसरों से मोहब्बत की, दूसरों के साथ डिग्निटी के साथ पेश आने की, और सेंसिटिविटी के साथ पेश आने की, I really truly want everyone who is listening to me right now, and anybody who is not listening to me, and if you pass on this message, I truly want all of you to understand. Please ये भी pass on करें message के किसी के लिए मोहब्बत, प्यार, किसी के लिए empathy, understanding दिल से निकलने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती. अगर आपको कोई पसंद नहीं आ रहा, इंडिविजुअल्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ले लें इस बात को, कि अगर आपको कोई पसंद नहीं आ रहा ना, the person sitting in front of you, उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि you can disrespect them. ठीक है ना? You have to keep that in your mind. It's okay if I don't like them. You don't have to like everybody to respect them. ठीक है? You just have to know that I can keep that boundary with them, but they're not my friend. They're not even my acquaintance if I don't want them to. But I still have to give them that respect. तो अभी हम जब ये core universal values हैं इनको discuss कर लेंगे ना, तो you'll see कि इसमें liking the person or being their friend, वो ये requirement कहीं पे भी नहीं है. The requirement is very simple, कि you give them dignity, you provide them with protection, with human rights, you are sensitive to their जो एक humanity का जो standard है, you're sensitive to that. Difference of religion, culture. So next is cherishing cooperation, sharing. That you have to share, you have to compromise, you have to make sure कि अगर आप एक space में हैं, जैसे कि होता है, आप एक you're living in a country, you're living in a community, you have to be mindful of that, कि आप peacefully रहें और cooperate करें एक दूसरे के साथ. And then the last one in this list is living in peace and harmony with one another. Now, I'll go back to the point that I was making, and क्योंकि I want to elaborate on that, कि इन सब चीज़ों में जो हम इसमें ठूस देते हैं ना, यार आई डोंट लाइक दैट पर्सन, उसका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू मुझे पसंद नहीं आया था, आई डोंट लाइक द वे दे थिंक, आई डोंट लाइक द वे दे डू दिस और दैट. लोगों को रिस्पेक्ट देने में और लोगों को उनके राइट्स देने के लिए वी डोंट हैव टू लाइक देम. अग्री करना तो बिल्कुल ही रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. उनको liking them and being their friend, ये भी requirement नहीं है. And that is very, very important to understand, because this is where the problem comes in. For the most part, this is one of the major problems. कि we are thinking कि we have to like this person, we have to agree with them. तो हमें liking वाले part को तो हमें बिल्कुल understand पक्का कर लेना चाहिए कि we don't have to like them. We don't have to be there. I'm sorry, I know कि मैं table को constantly move कर रही हूँ. I apologize. There is no need for us to like them or agree with them or think that on any level they are correct in whatever they are thinking. So this is very important to know and to understand. Our job is to think of them as human beings and have that empathy that if it was us, what would we want from these people, from the other party, from the other group, from the other individuals? We would want them to give us a certain kind of respect, to protect our dignity, and treat us like human beings, and connect with us on a certain level. Not connect with us as friends, but connect with us as, okay, you can have your space. You can do what needs to be done as long as you don't harm us and other people around you. And just follow these 6 things. हम ये गलती करते हैं कि we go into a very personal space where we're thinking, मुझे वो पसंद नहीं है वो. I don't like that person. That person did this to that person and then they did it to me, so I don't like them. And we go into a personal space, and then rather than just keeping our distance and still giving them their rights, we take away their rights. We may not be even able to keep our distance from them, which is a different issue completely, but we start to take their rights away because we personally don't like them. And the other thing about this whole thing about, giving people respect and giving people their rights is that it has nothing to do with what they have done to us. Even if they have walked into our house and murdered us, I'm not just talking about like personally or as in terms of nations or religion or whatever, no matter what standard you look at it from, we still have to give individuals and nations and families their rights. Not about the one person that has wronged us, but in a bigger scheme, if one person has hurt us, we still have the other people around them, their families, the nation, the neighborhood, they still have rights. We still have rights over them. They still have rights over us. So that's another thing that gets a little complicated that we don't look at in a more practical way. All right. So let's see how these 6 universal laws rules are implemented. So these values, these are core values. When we say in a more practical setting, we say, okay, these are the 6 values that of respect that should be followed. Somebody says, what is respect? How do we give another human being? All right, so Assalamu alaikum. There's a bunch of people that have joined us. Thank you for being here, everybody. So we're talking about respect and what it is and how we can give others respect. We're talking about in terms of individuals and in terms of nations and communities. The rules of respect and what it is and how it's given to people are very much just the same. Of course, they're just applied differently. And we talked about the 6 core values that are applied, which are universal, whether we're talking about again, individuals or a group, they're universal. So we talked about those. Now we're going to talk about how are those implemented, which is actually also quite simple. So here's how we would do that. If we're talking about just quickly just implementing it, if you were to come to me and say, okay, fine, so you've told us this is what it is. What are we doing to implement this? I want to start doing this. What am I going to be doing to just kind of make this a part of my life? I need to find the page where I have all of these. Because then I want to get into something, a very interesting discussion about this with you. Yeah. So, this is called values and practice, values of respect and practice. So the first one is, of course, education. You're just going to educate people, and that again would probably would be more suitable for organizations and communities and countries. That you educate your country, you educate your people on what respect is, and how to give it to other people, and how to receive it, and what you need to tell others, and how you do this, how it's going to be done. Second is spiritual nourishment and growth. Any country, any nation, any individual cannot have any kind of solid ground to do any kind of work unless they have some kind of spiritual growth and spiritual understanding of themselves. Now, so to speak, it seems like, oh yeah, well, of course, any auntie will say that to you, right? That's what it feels like. But as we go along, you'll learn, not in this particular session, but you will learn that it has been researched time and time over again that people who are associated with a spiritual group or some kind of religion or are more spiritually grounded are happier, healthier, and they're able to understand the world better. That's just the truth. It doesn't matter what the religion is, what the spiritual understanding is. If you have one, you are more well equipped to deal with the world. The third way it's practiced is dialogue and peace, and peace through dialogue. Fourth is humanitarian aid and contributions to the welfare of society. So, again, if you want to practice respect for your society, the people around you, then of course that's what you should be doing. Establish culture and art. Do more of that. Make people more aware of different types of cultures, different types of artists. Make it more known. Get people more involved in these things. Away from just frivolous things. Away from things that are not based in reality and truth. Away from, again, gossip and just idle talk. And the last one is publications. The more writing you have, the more literature you have, the more types of outside world view that you get to know or get to hear from, the easier it is to accept different people, to respect different people, to let people have their dignity, let people have their way of life, let people have their religion, their spiritual thoughts. So the rest of the things, when you do that, then education becomes easier. And then the spiritual growth becomes easier. And, everything is easier to be put in practice. So this was a very small kind of a limited view of how just our world looks at respect. A tiny view. This is something that I would teach my kids if they had asked me, okay, what is respect? What is the core of respect? If you say, you have to respect people, you have to respect people's space, you have to respect people just walking by, and this is how I would explain it to you. And I started this in this way because it just makes it easier to keep moving forward in terms of what it is and what we are supposed to be learning about the idea of how to deal with individuals and how to deal with the world around us and and the way the world is becoming. Everybody is so hostile. Everybody is so just eager to talk about themselves, to talk about their opinions without listening to other people, without even trying to give others a chance. Because the thing is that we're not alone in this world. We may have other people who have the same opinions as us, but even with that said, we are not alone with that group of people. And everybody who has a different opinion than we do, those people are not always wrong. And if they're wrong, let's say that those opinions are wrong because they could be wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people are bad people, or that their intentions are bad, or that what they're saying is wrong. You know? I mean, they could be slightly wrong or slightly not very well informed, but it doesn't necessarily make them wrong. So there are so many ways of looking at things and so many different directions that things can go in, but we get stuck in our ways. We get stuck in what we're saying, and we get stuck on what it is that we want from that particular thing. Sometimes it's not even about the opinion. Sometimes it's not that we're trying to disrespect the other person. It honestly isn't that. Sometimes it's just that we are honestly just stubborn. I wanted to use the word egotistical, but it's not even that. It's our idea that, no, I've said it and that's it, gets in our way. For the lack of a better way of explaining it. But I wanted to go ahead and while I talk, you'll know what I'm talking about. So in the 60s, in the 1960s, Turkey was in turmoil. Turkey had a really bad, I'm not going to, again, go into politics, but they had a really bad spell of, in terms of their politics in the country, and in terms of how it was their social situation. Of course, when the government is not doing so great, economies are not doing so great, then there are not enough jobs, and people fall into social ills like drugs, and people are doing illegal activities, of course. So there was a lot of that going on in Turkey. It started around the end of 1940s, and then 50s and 60s was the height of it. The worst of it was happening in the 60s. There was a scholar, intellectual Islamic scholar, and he was also a philosopher and intellectual. He wanted to do something to change things up. And he wanted to try to, of course, there were a lot of movements, a lot of people trying to do different things at that time. And as we all know, around that time was when 60s and 70s in the U.S. and the West, there were a lot of other movements coming up, wanting to help the society, wanting to make the society better, and all of those things. So that scholar, his name was Fatihullah Gulen. I don't know if it's Gulen or Julan, but it's with a G. Gullen. I should have Googled it properly so I knew how to pronounce it. I just said Gulen. I've always said that. So if any of you know how to properly pronounce it, do let me know. Anyway, so he decided to just focus on fixing the problems of Turkey and kind of come up with something with the help of this idea of what we talked about earlier, how to help his society, how to fix these problems, because this was the issue, that there's a lack of respect of other people's opinions, other people's way of life, and what other people want to do and how they want to live, and everybody has a different idea. And there was a big disconnect in that place in Turkey from what the older generation wanted from what the younger generation wanted. Just like we talk about the West around the same time, 60s and 70s, the older generation was very prudish and very much conservative, and the generation coming up was like, hey, just let's do what we want, and we don't want to fight in your wars, we don't want all this trouble, just, stop all this. all the money that's going outside on, for wars. We want it inside, helping our community, help and strengthen the economy, more jobs for the country, not fighting other people's wars. So, and the same kinds of situations were arising in Turkey. So, so he decided to focus on all of that, not the political side of it at that time, just all of that for the country itself. So he came up with his organization called Hizmet. Hizmet is a Turkish word which means individuals rising from individuals. Like something rises from one thing and turns into something like a movement, something very big and resilient and strong. So, and as you know, anything Arabic and Turkish and these kinds of languages, they have the meaning for one word is so deep that it's really hard to explain it. Especially in English, it becomes so hard. I could find you a word in Urdu, one word that would describe it, but it just kind of means that if you have one thing and something very, very bright and very deep and just kind of soaked and sprouts, something, great sprouts from it. So, something not just great, but like righteous and, not righteous in the sense of religious righteous, but just, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So that's what Hizmet means. And that movement still kind of exists, but it has lost it. It's a different thing now, but it's still the core values are still there, and the name and the way they are used as the name, as the values still exists. And now actually, it started, it spread like wildfire. Everybody just kind of loved that idea because it was something different, something unique to that time. What he represented and the way he put it together. It wasn't about a religion. It wasn't about a certain area. It wasn't about a certain type of people. It attracted everyone. Everybody joined in, and then it started spreading across the border. And I think by the 2000s, it was about 160 countries, around that much. It just everywhere. And because Turkey is kind of like, Asia, between Asia and Europe, so it just spread on both, sides. And so the movement focused on education and education of what respect is and what kindness is and what it is to let people be who they are and help. So you see the difference when we talk about respect and we talk about, I'm going to help you, but you first have to become like me, and then I'll help you. And in comparison to, no, you are who you are, and you're accepted as who you are, and I'll still help you and do what needs to be done for you. So that is what Fethullah was offering, and his organization did offer, which is, these are the things that mean respect. These are the things that are available to you that you need to be doing, and we will help you regardless. So there was guidelines that this organization, which was meant to help, and he created this organization to help and to better his own society in the beginning, and then it took off to other societies. So the set of rules for respect and for for working in diverse societies, diverse countries that he came up with was what helped his organization or his idea. It wasn't really an organization because it took off, and was accepted everywhere. It was an idea. It took off and it was accepted everywhere because he wasn't talking about changing people. He wasn't talking about, he wasn't saying, look, well, like I said, I'll do this for you, but the way you live is not acceptable to me. That's not okay, and that's not okay. Because if you do that, then you're not giving respect. You're not following the rules of humanity. You're not following the rules of being, diverse and educated and all of those things that we just read. So let me read the rules that he came up with. The list of rules that he came up with. And so he had 12 values that he shared, that he said that if we are going to do this, there's going to be 12 rules of values of respect that will be followed across the border that were his agenda. So, and these are called Hizmet values. And these are values that are followed to this day. Well, now it's not as popular as it was up until the late 2000s. Or we're still in the 2000s, around 2016, 2018. So the first one is respect for humans. Now, there is no humanity and this and that. No, just respect for humans. It does not matter where you're from. It does not matter where you live. Nothing matters. Respect for humans. Respect for rule of law. Now, this means rule of law where you live. Right? And this makes it very clear, because what we end up doing, it doesn't matter who we are, whether we're talking about an individual or we're talking about a person, a leader from somewhere, we want that person to respect our laws before we help them. So here he's saying respect for law, not for that individual that you're going to help. No, this person, if I'm part of a team and I'm going to help somebody, I should not expect the person that I'm going to help to respect my ways. This is for me to respect your humanity and for me to respect your rule of law in your country, in your nation, in your community. Peaceful and positive action. So whichever action, again, I'm going to put myself in that situation. If I am a leader of a country, if I am an individual who is going to help you in any circumstance, then I am the one who is going to be respectful and have a peaceful demeanor and positive action towards whatever conflict comes my way when I'm over there helping you or when I am interacting with you. Empowerment of women. Ethical action. Respect for diversity. Volunteering. Voluntary participation and altruism. So again, now it's voluntary participation. Again, the rest are self-explanatory, but look at the differences that we are talking about here now. Voluntary participation and altruism. Now, when we talk about helping somebody and we talk about respect, these are the things that grow the respect you have for other people. If you write a comment online, and I'm going to give all sorts of examples here because, we don't want to limit this, because the Hizmet values, 12 values of Hizmet are still used. This organization may not be so popular, but Hizmet values are still used in different organizations and NGOs, and they're just kind of like a go-to now, like a, one of those things that you just go to as a template. So this one, it's interesting that when we talk about helping other people, or we just generally are having a disagreement with somebody, we don't give them the option, right? We don't give people the option to participate in their own life. Like, they can't say no to us if we are trying to help them. It's like, well, we're offering you help. How dare you say no? We're giving you our opinion. How dare you refuse it? Whether it's a bigger incident, it's a countrywide thing, or a community-wide thing, or a one-on-one thing. If somebody would write an opinion on the internet and we respond to them, our attitude is, well, if you're going to write on the internet, I'm going to give you my opinion, no matter how I give it. I don't have to be polite about it. I don't have to be nice about it. That kind of attitude. Same goes for powerful countries. Well, if you're going to do this, I will respond in however I see fit. So with that kind of attitude, the idea of voluntary participation and altruism goes out the door, because then that little person that you are going to help, or you think they're going to help, will not cooperate with you. Then they will not voluntarily say, sure, tell me what you want, I'm ready to listen to you. Tell me what you think, tell me what you think, I'm ready to listen to you because you were so kind to me. Then their attitude is, yeah, I don't really care what you think, I don't really want to engage with you anymore. Civic nature and independence, consultation and shared wisdom. Again, if you look at all of these, they're all about sharing and doing things together and trying to be in a space where you are working with other people, working with those that you're trying to help, working with those that you're trying to make understand the situation at hand. Civic engagement, contribution to society. So while you're trying to help, so these, a little bit more information about the Hizmet organization. They got very, very popular in the late 1990s and especially early 2000s with all the natural disasters and a lot of the disasters created, by war and refugee, crisis and all of that, because they were used to be the first on the scene and all of those things. So when you have a situation like that, these kinds of organizations have the upper hand. They can create the situation. You have to do what we're telling you to. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, that will happen. And a lot of the times, the people in those positions have to listen to their caretakers, have to listen to the organizations that are taking care of them, that are doing things for them, that are giving them asylum, that are taking in refugees. And in this case, the governments were not the ones handling situations. The governments were not giving them a place to stay. It was these organizations in those days. And even now, a lot of the times, it's the NGOs, it's these types of organizations with the help of the government that take care of it. Now, if they impose themselves their own rules, their own regulations, there's nobody who can stop them. But if you have this scenario where they're saying civic engagement contribution to society, like if you have a contribution, you set up a system where you get other people from the community to help the people that have come in who need the assistance, or within the country, you're helping those who need assistance. Or if you're talking in one-on-one situation, if you're talking to somebody online or face-to-face, and you say, hey, I just have a suggestion. I just think that we should, you have this mutual conversation that you're just kind of giving ideas. A person is more likely to listen, and you have a back and forth about, yeah, I also think so. I agree. You do this in a respectful manner, that you're giving them full control of their situation. Full control. You're giving them the respect that they deserve with full control. And it's a contribution. You're contributing to their situation. You're not taking control of their life in your hands and saying, I'm telling you to do this because you don't know any better. Because if you knew better, you wouldn't be in this situation. And let's be honest, when we are giving somebody who has been through some things in their lives and has lost some things in their lives, our attitude is usually, you've done this and this has happened to you and let me tell you how to fix it. Not that, let's try to figure it out together. We usually end up making them feel like, if you knew better, you wouldn't be here. And then when they complain about this attitude from us or from others, then they hear things like, well, you're too sensitive. Ab ye to hoga na. Ab ye ho gaya to ye to hoga. Right? All right. So the 11th one is protecting the environment. And the 12th one, this is also quite interesting. Holistic view towards humanity, which means humans are material and spiritual. So we're not going to deal with human beings, like I said, as they're just objects moving around in front of us. We're gonna deal with them as people who have feelings, who have emotions, who've messed up, done things in their lives that they probably shouldn't have. But so have I, so have you, all of us. So whether you take this as nations, or you take this as things that happen to individuals, these are things that are, these are people. Maybe their circumstances are because of what they did. But does that mean that we also, people who are trying to help them, also punish them? Is that the right attitude? Is that how we're respecting others? And then when somebody says something, and again, that goes back to what we were saying earlier, that if somebody says something we don't like, does that make that whole entire individual that is made up of, organs and limbs and all those things, and a soul, feelings and thoughts and everything, that it is okay to discard that entire being? Or just say you were wrong altogether, top to bottom? Does that give us a right to do that? And that is the argument, actually. The last thing that is written in the Hizmet value system is actually the argument that Fethullah Gulen makes, actually, is that is the core of his argument, that, human beings are complete beings and we can't see them or work with them in any different way. So these are important to implement. Otherwise, you're not helping, or your intention is not to help. And otherwise, you're not giving them respect. And then, are you really even a helpful person? Is that really even something that is, worth doing for you? So in 2016, there was a lot of, again, turmoil, and then a coup, and so many other things that happened in Turkey. He was exiled. He now is in, I'm not sure if he's still alive, but last I heard of him, he was in the U.S. somewhere, Pennsylvania. His organization was banned in Turkey, but the Hizmet rules, values are still used widely because of how effective they are, and because of how much they make sense, and how deep they are, and his and the things that he's mentioned, and the things that are talked about in his works, in terms of works with refugees, in terms of works, the work that he talks about doing and he has done in the situation. Actually, he stopped working a long time ago himself, but the work he did, and the work he did do, and the works he talks about, the way it should be done, and his technique and the analysis he's done of how to deal with people, how to give them respect, not just in situations of disaster and difficulty, but just in general, communicating with people, and the way we talk to people, and the way we just, analyze others in terms of, oh, I didn't mean it that way. You are thinking of it that way. That's not what I meant to say. You're taking it the wrong way, but you're, again, being too sensitive. I'm just trying to be honest. And, it's better that I say it to your face than talk back behind you, talk bad about you behind you. Ghibat se to behtar hai. Is it though? Is it really? Aren't both just as bad? So all those things and the analysis of it is, and this is really just all together, his really his conclusion of all of it, and how to communicate with other people, and how to, just because you're saying it to their face doesn't mean it's okay. It is not okay to be rude to people to their face either. That does not justify it, is basically what his conclusion is, and how to give people respect. That's the whole idea. Like you can be respectful without hurting people's feelings. Without admitting the truth, and you don't have to hurt people's feelings, and people don't have to agree with you to always be on your right side. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have conflict and still be respectful to each other. Now, how is respect defined just in general? We were talking about respect in terms of, the universal concept of respect, and the nations, and on a bigger scale, right? So we're going to go over this really quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Here are 10 things that are defined if you go over. This is from a research center in UCAS, West London University. Be kind, be polite, listen to understand, which is very important, obviously. Think before speaking, tame your language. I went off screen. And there's a point to me explaining this. I'll get to it in a minute. Because now, we were talking, up until this point, we were talking in a bigger scheme of things, mainly conflict, countries, nations, even individuals, communities. Even if we're talking about individuals, we're talking about, in the bigger scheme of things, right? So now we're talking about respecting one another, right? So smaller scheme of things. I'll go one more time. Be kind, be polite, listen to understand, think before speaking, tame your language, lend a helping hand, avoid gossip, respect personal space, understand that everyone has their own experiences and beliefs, speak if others around you are being disrespectful, be willing to evolve and admit mistake. Now, here's my question to you guys. I want you guys to take a minute and give me an answer if you can. On the one hand, be polite, be kind, right? And then on the other hand, it says, speak up if others around you are being disrespectful. How do we do both? Because again, the things that we are talking about here is that if you give your opinion, most people are more likely to get offended than appreciate it. Especially if your opinion is different from theirs. Because we tend to take offense to that. Right? So if I feel you're being disrespectful by giving your opinion about something, and I tell you, then you will think that I'm being impolite or unkind. How do I give my opinion to you about something that you disagree with me on without you thinking that I'm being unkind or impolite? How does that happen? Are you all here? Or am I just not making any sense to you anymore? See, that will happen when we listen to each other to understand. Because these days, we are just talking over each other. And even when we are letting the other person talk, we are waiting for them to finish talking so we can start talking again, or we can just tell them what we think. We're not listening to understand. So if you have said something to me, you have an opinion about something, you think that, I don't know, at the top of my head, light blue is an amazing color for the walls. I'm looking at a wall right now. So light blue is an amazing color, and, my bedroom walls should be colored light blue. It opens up the room, looks beautiful, and you're suggesting it to me, right? And you tell me this whole 5-minute thing about how beautiful it is. And then I'm like, no, I can't do that because, and then I start giving you reasons for why I cannot do that. Right at that moment, most likely, when I say you, I don't mean particularly one of you here. I just mean the next person, whoever, or maybe even me if the roles are reversed. have stopped listening to understand why I have said no, and then have started to explain why I cannot paint my walls blue, and have started thinking of counterpoints of how you will convince me that I am wrong about wanting to convince my color my walls blue, paint them blue, and I should, and why it's good, and you're gathering points in the back of your head. That's how we function now. Or maybe always have. Now it's more obvious because we have, the great marvel, the social media. So now you're not paying attention to anything I say. And if you are, you're jotting those points down on how you can counter argue. So you may still be very polite to me, and you may sound very, very kind when you say it, but you're not understanding. You're not taking it in as to, oh, this is the issue, and this is the issue, and this is the issue. This is what's important to her. No, you're ready to just give me answers. You're not listening to, oh, the color is not so soothing to her. Oh, okay, so her bedside is not going to match the walls. All right, so the color that she has, all of her bed sheets are too bright, and then she's going to have to get new bed sheets, and she can't afford that right now. All right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's the point. No, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is, no, but so what's the big deal? Yeah, just get other colors, and can't your bed sheets fit in the other room? And can't you just do this? And can't you, the new ones, can't you return them? And then can't you? So your mind is going in a different direction because you want to prove yourself right. Is that making any sense? Most of us do that. And then what happens is that I'm thinking now, you're being rude, and you're saying, I'm trying to help you. What? We're talking about your room and how to decorate and what to do, and you asking for ideas, and I'm giving you ideas, and now you're upset that I'm giving you ideas. But I needed genuine help. And what you started to do is just impose your ideas on me. Now, when I talk about a room and paint and sheets, it doesn't sound so bad, but if you're doing that with someone's life, real life issues about marriage and about children, about husband, about parents, about, real things, it's painful and it's really hurtful. And then at the end of the conversation, when you say, dude, you're just being sensitive, I was trying to help you, you just get emotional about these things. It drains you. It absolutely drains you. And it's not just like other people do it to me or some people do it to some people. We all do it to each other. We really just want to say our thing. And a lot of us are just like, okay, hurry up and stop talking so I can say what I wanted to say. Hurry up. I'm going to forget. We all do it. We all do that to each other. And social media has made it so much easier to be rude and so much more acceptable to say things that we would never say in real life to each other. And I know that we talk about this all the time, things that we would never get away with. We say them so, sorry, I got overexcited. We say them so openly and so easily now, but we still keep doing it. So that is what I wanted to say in a hurry. And, yeah. So, and I want to end on a question, actually, for you guys. Would you tell me if any of you have had any experiences like that in real life? Because I know that we see this all the time and we talk about it all the time, but we never really talk about our own experiences. Would you be able to tell me any experiences that any of you have had? Okay, so we had a lot of people come in the last 10 minutes. Thank you guys for being here. Let me put on my glasses so I can't see anymore without these. Oh. No. I apologize for my... All right, so, okay. There's a lot of you. Thank you for joining me in this last 15 minutes, all of you that joined me. yeah, so my question to you was like, when was the last time something like this happened to you? If any of you would want to talk to me about that, that you were genuinely talking to somebody, discussing your problems with the person, and you don't have to name people, you don't even have to name the issue, but I just want to know, when was the last time that that happened, that you were genuinely discussing an issue with somebody and you felt unheard, and you felt like they were just trying to answer you, uh, in terms of trying to just to just talk, like listening to answer rather than understanding your issue and trying to help you. Is there any example any of you can think of, or just the top of your head? And also what we call keyboard warriors. I know we have that every single day. I don't want you to think of somebody else, but think about yourself. Last time you did that to someone else, where somebody is discussing some issue. It doesn't have to be personal to them. It doesn't have to be somebody discussing something that happened to them, but any issue, any kind of situation that's going on, that you did that, where you just went off on somebody that, oh, let me tell you how it really is. If any of you wants to help me out with that. The reason I'm asking for these examples is that I give you all these examples, and I just do give random examples because I don't want to give examples from real life. Because how many am I going to give of those from my life? So if any of you wants to come forward and do that, you don't have to give me your own life examples, but just from anybody's life or random things that you can think of. You guys can hear me, right? I get hearts every now and again, but I don't get any comments. I can't be that boring. Or have I just completely lost the chain here with you guys? Okay, so I'm trying to look at all the people who've come in, if I can start naming you and thanking you for being here, but there's a lot of you, and the names are like kind of difficult for me to pronounce, but I am really, really grateful that you guys are here. Somebody wrote something. Appreciate it. Read it. Just took off my glasses and put them back. All right, so nurturing counselor wrote, recently I told my friend something and she was just replying but did not understand me. Hirosaya, yep, a lot of disagreements go this way. If a person says, please don't call me XYZ name or something, but then they aren't listening and call you sensitive. Yeah, that's just, yeah. The sensitive thing is, exactly. Okay, so no, nurturing counselor continues saying, but did not understand me. I felt terrible. Yeah, so the same thing. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not coming out of nowhere and giving these examples that are not really something that all of you can relate to. Just wanted to make sure that this is something that happens to all of us, and we are still facing the same problem that I am talking about. But yes, and that's a huge thing, because and I believe that if you really don't understand what a person is going through and you cannot relate, that's okay too. You don't have to relate to another person. You don't have to always agree or always understand. Then there's a different way of doing that. Then maybe ask again, maybe ask them to elaborate, or ask one or two more questions to have things be more clear to you. But to completely disregard and continue to do what they've asked you not to do, yeah, that's a bit, that is hurtful. And the sensitive thing, like, oh, you're too sensitive, you're taking it too seriously. It happens to everybody. It's like, just because it happens to everybody does not mean that it's okay or that I should put up with it. So, all right. So if this is all, I'm done. That's all I had for you guys. I just wanted to see where you guys are at with this talk, and if you got what I was trying to impart on you, what little bit of information and knowledge that I had on this topic. And I find this topic to be very close to my heart, and I find it to be extremely important. And no matter how many times I talk about it, I feel like this is something that we really need to understand. We need to understand it in terms of the bigger picture, what's happening around the world, and we need to understand it in terms of one-on-one or in terms of a community, that there are certain rules. It's not just, oh, respect people and then that's it. No, there are rules of engagement. Every single little thing, you're engaging with an individual on, on social media, you're engaging with your friends, your family, in what capacity. There are rules. Please read up on it. You want to make sure if you're doing it properly by your religion. Please read up on that. You want to make sure you're doing it properly by your customs, by your country's value systems. However, read up on it and do it properly, because we are not just responsible for ourselves. We are responsible for a whole community, our children, our sisters, our brothers. There's a mess of people. What we do matters not just to the person in front of us. It matters to the whole society. It trickles down. Everything that we've learned from our parents, from our society, from people around us, and everything we learn and we pass on goes to everybody. And this is more important than, what we read and we learn about other things in our life. This is more important than that, because these are the things that go down in history and that stick. I don't know if that made any sense. See, if you learn about what people ate, or in हमारी history में हमारे whatever ancestors, or if you learn about how they wore clothes, that's important, but it's not life-changing. But learning about how they treated people, how they engaged with people, whether it's in war, in time of peace, in conflict, in socially, learning those things and then doing those things and not doing those things, that changes you, changes your chemistry, changes you biologically, changes how you will move forward your present, and it changes your future, changes each and every individual in a different way. So these things are way more important than other things that we learned around us. So please pay attention, learn them properly, teach them properly, apply them to your life properly, however you feel it should be applied, because we're all adults here. We know what to do with this information. All right. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Loved having you. This was actually a lot of fun for me. Loved researching it and loved talking to you. Have a good night, good day, good evening, and I will see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.